why do the non-Jews hate us so much? Why is there anti-Semitism in the world? Why? Is there anything we can do to stop anti-Semitism from happening in the world? So let me just put this up. Hold on. So I mean, if you look at New York just this week, there were two ex-Golani soldiers who were walking in the streets of Manhattan where they now live. And we all saw the video of them going and being attacked by a pro-Palestinian mob of about 40 people. Thank God these guys were Golani soldiers, which would not take it lightly, and they fought back. Irony is that one of them got arrested by the police. He was released later, but that's crazy. These are scenes from New York, from Manhattan, the greatest city in the universe, right? And then this week we saw also Jews in a restaurant in Los Angeles being attacked, being beaten up. Chabad rabbi in London was being beaten up. These are stories that happened in the 1930s. We wouldn't think they happened in 2021. The great philosopher Harvey Swados once came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the 1950s. This is right after the Holocaust, right after, 6 million Jews, a third of our nation were wiped out. And in a private audience with the Rebbe, he asked the Rebbe, can the Holocaust happen in America? And the Rebbe said, without batting an eyelid, the Rebbe said two words in Yiddish, morgen in der Früh, tomorrow morning. It could happen so rapidly tomorrow morning. But then the Rebbe said, God would never let it happen twice. God would not let it happen, even though technically things could progress so fast that it could happen tomorrow morning. See, here's the truth of the matter, and I'm going to explain the cause, the source of anti-Semitism and what we can do about it. Every time the IDF proclaims to be the most moral army in the world, they hate us even more. Every time the IDF kills terrorists but saves innocent lives, innocent children hiding behind those Hamas shelters, they hate us more. It aggravates them, it annoys them even more. When the IDF gives warning to a building, to the residents of the building, we are not going to destroy this building, and there's hundreds of people inside it, and they have a 20-minute warning to leave, and when the IDF destroys the building, no civilian dies, it infuriates. When we read stories of the morality of the IDF, the most moral army in the world, it makes them hate us even more. And I'm going to tell you the answer straight from the Talmud. I'm going to share the screen so you could see it right in front of you. And here it is. This is from Tractate Shabbat. Thank God for Sefaria.org, where we can get all that information. I can show you live what's happening here. Here's the story. Read it. There was one of the sages said to Rav Kahana, Mish Melech Mai Har Sinai. Tell me something. Do you know why the mountain is called Har Sinai? The mountain where God gave the Torah. Why is it called Har Sinai? What's the name Sinai? Amar Lei. So he answered him, Har Shanasu Bonisim Le'Yisrael. This is the mountain that miracles were performed for Israel, right? We know that God appeared to him at the burning bush over there. We know that the Jews received the Torah there. Miracles, amazing. So he answered him, Rav Kahana answered him, Har Nisai Mi Boyle. If that's the case, it should be called Nes in Hebrew is Nes. So Har Nisai, the mountain of Nisai. What's Sinai? Ella. So he told him, Har Shanas Siman Tov Israel. This is a sign. This is a mountain that there was a great omen, a great thing happened to the Jewish people. Siman Tov, good muzzle. So he said to him, if so, it should be called Har Simanai Mibaile. So Amalei, my time Lashlichas Kamed Rav Papa Rav Huna. Why don't you go in front of Rav Papa and Rav Huna Bered Rav Shud Ma'ini Bakata that they can explain to you the Chista Rabba Bered Rav Huna Tamid Ma'ir Rabbi Chista and Rabba the son of Rav Huna said both of them like this. I Har Sinai. Here's the answer for anti-Semitism right here. Tractate Shabbat 89a. Why is it called the mountain of Sinai? Answers the Talmud. Har Sheyarda Sina Leumot Ha'olam Alav. This is the mountain that the nations of the world started hating us. You see, when God gave the Jewish people the Torah, the nations of the world started hating us. Why? Why would us receiving the Torah? There were 2, 3, 4 million Jews who received the Torah 3,333 years ago, exactly to the day. That caused anti-Semitism. That caused the nations of the world to hate us. Why? So let's look. I'm going to show you this source over here. Hold on. Let me just, in the age of Zoom, I could show you anything. So look at this. This is based on the words of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says like this. When somebody meets, you can read it to yourself, but I'm going to read this. When somebody meets somebody else who is acting in a better way, there could be two kinds of reactions how to approach this. So a good man, a humble person, will want to learn from you. Wow, you are acting so kindly. You are such a good guy. I want to learn from you. That's amazing. Those people are called Chasidei Umot Haolam, the righteous Gentiles. But there are people that when you act kindly and nicely and beautifully in front of them, it awakens jealousy, animosity inside the person, because it awakens a hole inside of him or her, because I can't act so justly. I'm not so moral. I'm not so good. So some people aspire to be moral and good and better, but other people, it awakens a hole inside of them. You see, Am Yisrael, in the matter of the Torah, they became holier people. They became a light unto nations. They became people who now have a moral reality in the world, to be good, to be just, to be kind. So that's why some people are inspired by that. But other people, it infuriates them. So a Jew introduced consciousness into the world. So every time a Hamas rocket is fired and the IDF blows up a building but doesn't kill innocent civilians, they think, oh my God, why would you do that? I would just blast everybody. I would kill everybody. So this annoys anti-Semites. Every time the IDF is careful not to kill a child hiding behind a Hamas terrorist, right? Because the Hamas terrorist uses the children, it infuriates them, because in their mind, what do you mean just destroy? Imagine if a missile would land in Washington, Washington would obliterate the country that sent that missile. It doesn't matter if there's man, woman, children, doesn't matter. The IDF doesn't do that, and this infuriates them, because the more moral we are, the more good we are, it awakens a hole inside of them. So the AOCs of the world, and the John Olivers and the Trevor Noahs, who know nothing but just scream about the Jews attacking, they don't know why it's bothering them. They just know there's a gaping hole inside them. Right? Why are the Jews being singled out right now as we speak? In May 2021, there's probably 30 active wars anywhere in the world, right? The USA is involved still in an active war in Afghanistan. I think there's been, just in 2021, since January, there's been about 10,000 deaths. Not a peep, not a scream from John Oliver. Right? There's a civil war in Yemen since 2011. Just this year, in the last few months, 7,000 people have been killed. There's a civil war in Syria. Since 2021, 2,000 people have been killed. Why are the Jews being singled out? Because of the gaping hole we created in civilization. By the way, no less than the greatest anti-Semite in history, Adolf Hitler, wrote in Mein Kampf. He said, as for consciousness, that was a Jewish invention. Consciousness damages the soul. That's what he wrote. What's the answer to anti-Semitism? So we now understand what caused it. Har Sinai caused it. What's the answer to anti-Semitism? So nothing we do will ever placate the Jews, right? The anti-Semites. The first anti-Semite in history is a guy called Lavan. Lavan was family with Jacob. Lavan was his father-in-law. Jacob lived with him for 20 years. How can you get closer to an anti-Semite? How can you try to appease the anti-Semite more than that? And yet Lavan hated Yaakov blindly. In fact, the Torah says, halacha, Esav sonel Yaakov. What does it mean, halacha? It's a law. It's a law means that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. You could try hide your Judaism, it will infuriate them even more. You could try assimilate, it will infuriate them even more. Hitler attacked and killed every single Jew, no matter how badly they were assimilated. We are all one. We are all united. The only response to anti-Semitism is to act as prouder Jews, is to act as better Jews, to commit to doing a mitzvah, another mitzvah, put on tefillin, light Shabbat candles, give charity, act more moral and more just and more kind. Do as many mitzvot as you can. And like Lubavitcher Rebbe said to Harvey Swados, it could happen tomorrow morning, but God will never let it happen. Put your faith in God. That's our secret weapon, our faith. Our faith can never be shattered, can never be broken, no matter what they do to us. And by the way, Shavuot, we just read in the Talmud, is Har Sinai, is miracles happen to the Jews around Shavuot time. We know that big miracles recently, 6-Day War happened around Shavuot time. We know that Israel bombed the Iraq nuclear reactor on the eve of Shavuot 1981, which was tremendous miracles that happened, that the Jews were able to bomb, even though the entire world condemned Israel, then including the USA. 10 years later, the USA thanked Israel for taking out the nuclear reactor of Iraq. So it's Shavuot time. We know that this is a time that God performs miracles for us. May God perform the ultimate miracle for us around Shavuot time, which we just celebrated a few days ago, with the coming of Mashiach, which will finally eradicate and destroy and annihilate all the anti-Semites in the world. But until then, be strong, be proud of Jews, go out and do another mitzvah and proclaim loudly and proudly, I am a Jew, and I will not bend, and I will do a mitzvah today. Have a wonderful week.
Yours is a voice of criticism we don't often hear in the United States. Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then there are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people, and that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.